The Locust God versus Tatyova, Benthic Druid. Haven't played that commander in a while. We can keep this hand. We have access to both blue and red. We'll have to remember to get the Sulphur Falls down first, as it will come in tapped. And we have counter magic coming out of our nose. So should be able to grab control of the game fairly quickly. Tatyova, Benthic Druid, is 5 mana in green and blue for a 3/3. Whenever a land enters under your control, you gain a life and draw a card. So we're going to see a hell of a lot of land ramp from our opponent, I imagine. Here we are just going to hold up Mana Leak, and yeah, we can Mystical Tutor if we don't want to Mana Leak anything. But yeah, Tatyova, Benthic Druid can go out of control really quickly. And a Sky Shroud Claim is exactly the type of thing that we want to... Do we actually want to mana drain that? I'm going to mana drain that because that means that we can get down the Locust God next turn. And I don't know if our opponent is likely to cast another 4 CMC spell. They might just go for Tatyova next turn if they manage to get into another land. Speaking of our commander, a 4/4 God for 6 mana in red and blue. It has flying. We can loot for 4 mana. When it dies, we return it to our hand at the beginning of the next end step. And whenever we draw a card, we get a 1/1 blue and red insect with flying and haste. So we have drawn into a land, which is really good. That means we can hold up Rapid Hybridization or Mystical Tutor. I think we're still going to Locust God. It would have been a waste not to Locust God there. Yeah, it would have been completely pointless to mana drain and then not actually use Locust God. We're still only on 3 lands. Our opponent is on 4 mana, maybe 5 next turn. But they will at least have to tap out for a Tatyova. And then we can maybe get into something off the Mystical Tutor, or we could just Rapid Hybridization our opponent's commander. Not sure what we want to do yet. All relies solely on what our opponent's doing. Glad that they are cracking a fetch land without having their commander out, because that would have been just more stuff for them. They're going for Urban Evolution. That's draw 3 cards and they can play an additional land. They're not doing any of this with their commander out, but they do have a full grip now, and they're going for a tap land with a scry, so I think we are safe to go for our tapped Steam Vents now. Also glad to see that our opponent hasn't gotten rid of our Locust God. That's really good for us. We'll get at least 1 token next turn. I'm not sure how good Mana Leak is now. If I've done that quickly enough, which I think I have, might consider going for Mystical Tutor. Actually, no, I'm just going to hold up the Mana Leak and the Disallow. And then we can, yeah, I'm going to hope for a land here, because we can Mystical Tutor for a wheel. Cyclonic Rift isn't the most terrible thing to draw into, but we're really struggling on lands currently. So we'll go with that line of play. We'll hold up Mana Leak. Like I say, I'm not sure how good it is now that our opponent has ramped. But they can go 4/5. They can go into their commander, and we can Mana Leak that. So, and then that will leave up Mystical Tutor for a wheel. Doesn't feel good to get rid of Disallow and Cyclonic Rift, but a wheel will get us into more lands and we can try and catch up with our opponent. Okay, going for Ether Flux Reservoir. Don't want to deal with that, so I'm just going to counter it here. If they want to counter the counter. Okay, and our opponent is Life from the Loaming, so that's fine. They get back their fetch land. I don't think they played a land this turn. Oh, did they play the Simic Guildgate? Yeah, I think they did play that, so they might go for their commander next turn. Gonna hold off on Mystical Tutor then. We can hold up Disallow for our opponent's commander. And that is exactly why I didn't Mystical Tutor, because I was hoping for a land. And this is a pretty slow, grindy Locust God game so far, but I do want to try and keep our opponent off of Tatyova. Because having played it for so long, played it since the beginning of the channel, if you're interested in seeing Tatyova Benthic Druid games, you can go and look up a playlist on this channel. Been playing it since day one. It's a really good commander. So as I say, just going to hold up Disallow for our opponent's commander. Worst case scenario, we get a counter out of their hand. Best case scenario, we actually managed to counter the commander. And they're going for... I think they went for Gush there. Did they return 2 islands to do that? Let's have a look. Ah, right. Our opponent is saying... Our opponent's saying that's game, so... Judging by that, it certainly will be after we counter the Disallow. Looks like they had something going with the Ether Flux Reservoir, maybe some kind of combo. Obviously don't know what that is. Maybe our opponent will reveal their hand and show us what they had going on. Going for Misty Rainforest with their commander off the field, which is exactly what we want. But they're still playing it out, so maybe I've misunderstood them. No, they said that's game. So maybe they've realised that there are more lines of play for them. We can... Yeah, I think we go for a wheel. And then we can try and draw the game to a close. Okay, Exploration will allow them to play an additional land. They go for Yavimaya Hollow, which is green and tap, regen a creature. We're going to go for our Wheel of Fortune here. And if this game went on any longer... Yeah, so they see that. What we would have done there is gone for Wheel of Fortune. We would have discarded our hand and drawn 7. And that would have put... we would have got an insect at the beginning of our turn. That would have been 3. And then 7 more from the Wheel of Fortune. That would have been 10 damage from the insects alone. So, yeah, managed to pull out a win with the Locust God. And Tatyova didn't have too good a showing there. We just had a fistful of counter spells, so not a whole lot that they could do about that, clearly, if they're not running counter spells themselves. That's just the way it goes sometimes. Hopefully you enjoyed that. That was the Locust God versus Tatyova Benthic Druid. And I will see all of you in the next one. Thank you for watching.